Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and Yukon legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by Yukon legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right, and we are here for college football clarity. And I would like to thank everyone for our audience the last time we were out. Over 42,000 people just on YouTube alone, and counting Spotify. We are getting up there, gaining in popularity. So thank you for everyone for watching. And with me, as always, the Rock himself from the Rock Pile, Rocky Corigliano. Rock, great to see you.
What's happening today, man? Excited for some football.
Yeah, a lot has happened. A lot has happened since we last talked. And the first thing, I was very interested with Michigan. Their coach got hired. Sharon Moore was fired, and they went with Kyle Whittingham. And then we saw the coach at Ohio University get fired for a similar infraction, I would say. Do you think college football has to take a little bit of a handle on this when they're putting people in place in the administration and the athletic departments to prevent this from happening? Do you think they should monitor their phone or have some form of regulation on their emails? Because Moore was, he was texting, messaging Instagram people, and really had no fear, which I was shocked at. Especially with the scandals that gone on in Michigan.
Yeah, I think what's even worse is I think the notion that he was text messaging during the game against Ohio State at halftime. I think this is a really bad look, not just for Michigan. I think it's a bad look for Jim Harbaugh, even though Harbaugh's in the NFL. This was a handoff. This was a Jim Harbaugh decision to give the job to Sharon Moore. They never did a nationwide search for this job. It was just handed to Moore. Now, I thought they did a pretty good job this year, winning 9 games with the youngest team in the country. But, I mean, Steve, let's be real, though. What Sharon Moore did, he's just one of the ones that got caught. I think it
Exactly.
happens all over, not just college football. I think it happens all over the world in sports, and he was just a guy that got caught, and it's too bad for his career because here he is, a young guy, at Michigan, which is a top 5 job in college football, was making good money, and now, now this people are saying, "You think he'll ever coach again?" He'll get another shot, maybe as an
Yeah, he will.
assistant coach, but I don't think he'll get a head job anytime soon. We'll see how the legal thing plays out, but he's just another guy that got caught. The guy at Ohio did the same thing in a different way. We didn't hear much about it because it wasn't as big as the Michigan job and all that. So it's unfortunate. But if I was Michigan, and I think I said this to you on one of our prior shows, I would have fired Ward Manuel, the athletic director, and I
Yeah.
would have gutted this program from the top down, and I would have started over.
Yeah. I was surprised that Manuel survived this. And I know Ward because he was at Yukon and he was very good with the alumni. I didn't think he was going to survive this. And I was very shocked that he was part of the hiring process. I do think they hired a good coach in Whittingham. He's going to come in there and do well. I know Pogge wanted that job badly, and I think he interviewed for it, but he is not going to get it. I agree with you. I think they are too good of a program to go through something like this, and they need to clean house and they need to start fresh because this has gone on for a couple of years. I don't think the Connor Stallions thing was nearly as big as people made it out to be. This was, and everything that happened with him and his family, it's a terrible situation. But, like you said, they have the youngest team in the country. They won 9 games. They're going to get through it. They're still, they had some decommits, but they're still going to get top recruits, and they're going to come back. But I was surprised to see it happen. I was surprised that Manuel was allowed to be part of the search. Do you see him staying on long term, 5 years?
Well, I think Kyle Whittingham's going to save his job because to have a guy like Kyle Whittingham even available. I mean, we all know that Kyle Whittingham wasn't the first option for Michigan. We don't know if he was the 5th or 6th option. We don't really know who was in play. Kenny Dillingham said Michigan never reached out to him. So Kalen DeBoer said the same thing. Nobody reached out to him. So we don't know who Michigan reached out to. But I will say this because I am a Michigan fan, been one my entire life. Kyle Whittingham is a steal for Michigan. He's going to do it the right way. If you go back and look at his 21 years at Utah, Steve, they're known to run the football. They produce quarterbacks. They play hard-nosed defense. All the stuff that at Michigan, how did Michigan win a few years ago? They ran the football and they played really good defense. The sign stealing thing, I'll just say this. Michigan had better players. If you look at Jesse Minter, who's in the NFL, who's doing a great job for Harbaugh as a D coordinator. Chargers have one of the best defenses in the league. Mike McDonald at Seattle is doing a phenomenal job, who was another defensive coordinator at Michigan. So they just had better players. So people can say what they want about all that stuff. I just think they were better. But I think what Kyle Whittingham has done, and I think the best part about him, he's bringing Jason Beck, the offensive coordinator from BYU, who was at New Mexico, who was also, if people remember, to Syracuse fans, he was the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator back at Syracuse, 3-4 years ago. So I think him coming over with Whittingham's going to be good. I know a lot of people were big Biff Pogge fans. I was too. He kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way during this process. And Steve, you know as well as I do, he wanted the job more than anybody.
He did. Yeah.
And the players, I think, supported him. And I think now we're going to see, who hits the portal from Michigan. Michigan is still Michigan. And as Urban Meyer said, Whittingham was an Urban Meyer disciple, coached them at Bowling Green, coached them at Utah. Urban Meyer said this guy is one of the best coaches in college football, and Michigan got it right. So I'm excited. I think it's a great hire.
I think it's a great hire too. And I think he is going to keep the program on the right trajectory. And, they're playing in the Big Ten. You need to run the football. You need to play tough defense in the Big Ten, and that is what he brings to the table. That is what he did at Utah year in and year out. And I was happy to see that they got this one because it's a big name, and it was a tough situation because the coaching cycle has kind of passed. And to bring him on, I didn't believe Kalen DeBeer would have been the best choice. I like Whittingham. I think Whittingham will be good. I think he's going to get the job done. So I was happy to see that.
And I don't know what happened, at Utah when he said he was stepping down. I don't know if he was getting some pressure internally for people to move on because he was getting up there in age. I think he's 65 years old, but he's a young 65. He's in great shape.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened at Utah with him after 21 years. Maybe it ran its course and maybe he was starting to rub some people the wrong way. But how about him, though? He steps down. And then 2 weeks later, he gets a 5-year deal. He's going to make $8.2 million a year at Michigan. So he got a better job. And don't be surprised if Utah jumps into the Big Ten here over the next couple of years. Great job you did, though, there.
I know. I was happy to see that. So we were looking back at the playoff games, and I guess minor surprise was Miami being victorious after getting lambasted for being in the playoffs at all over Notre Dame. And as expected, Tulane, James Madison, completely outmatched. The Oregon James Madison game, I think, kind of showed the difference between the group of five and the power conferences. They did their best to hang with them. They played better in the second half, but they just don't have the depth or the talent to compete with a team like Oregon. And that is where I understand the process with the top 5 conference champions, ranked conference champions getting in. But for the playoffs overall, I think they're making the right move, trying to get the best teams in, regardless of conference winners, regardless of the ranking. The top 12 need to be in.
Yeah, I would agree. When I was watching those games, the one thing I said, and if you remember, I did pick Miami to win that opening game. And when we go through picks here, I'm going to probably surprise you because I think Miami's got a really good shot to beat Ohio State. Is not many people were talking about Oregon giving up 35 points. Everybody talked about they scored a lot of points, and Oregon's really good. I mean, they're quick, they're physical on the O-line, D-line. I would have loved to see Notre Dame get in over James Madison and Tulane. We saw Tulane Ole Miss the first time, and Ole Miss blew them out, so you knew it was going to happen again. But no discredit into both those teams. Tulane and JMU had a great seasons, and both coaches, right? John Summerall's going to Florida. Bob Chesney is going to UCLA, so they'll move on. But I would have loved to see Notre Dame because I think Notre Dame could have made a really good run just because they like to run the football. They're physical. They play really good defense. But again, going back to the Oregon piece, Steve, I don't think anybody said, well, they gave up 35 to JMU. And I know it was a blowout. They probably had some reserves in and backups, but still giving up 35. And listen, credit Chesney because I've said it all along. I would have loved Chesney for some of these other Big Ten jobs. I hate to see him go out west. I think he's a good football coach. His teams play hard. And they battled, but it's not like basketball, right? The NCAA tournament, when we have the 16 seed beat a 1 seed, college football, and you played it at the high level. It's just different. They're not as big. They're not as quick. They don't have the athletes. They don't have the speed. It's not like basketball. And I think some people like to see the David and the Goliath in all sports, but football's different.
Yeah, football, you don't have that. Football, it is very, very difficult to get the upset. You have to play the perfect game. The other team has to play their worst game, turn the ball over, make mistakes galore to have a chance for victory. And, JMU, I thought, had a great season. But again, they're from the Sun Belt. You're taking the Sun Belt champion and you're putting them against a Big Ten team, a top Big Ten team. That's just not going to work out. And, Tulane from the AAC, from the American, against Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I do give Lane Kiffin credit for letting Weiss go back and be the offensive coordinator, call the plays. I thought he did a great job, and they did what they were supposed to do. They dominated. Trinidad Chambliss, he went down with an injury. He comes back. They look very, very good. And that is the thing I believe Lane Kiffin will regret most. If Ole Miss goes on, wins another round, and he's not part of it, and he could do all the hot yoga and praying he wants, he took the money. He went to LSU, and the big reason coaches are asking now, it's not as much about, how much am I going to have for my assistant staff pool? It's how much money are you going to give me for my players?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what LSU promised them. And I thought it was a little bit hypocritical of LSU because the governor comes out and, he blames the AD at LSU for giving that contract to Brian Kelly. And he gives Lane a monster contract, and then they give him more money for players, and that's what they're going to do. Because that's what you have to do to survive in this age of college football, and it's only going to get worse. The players are getting paid.
I thought the whole Lane Kiffin thing, and I think I said it with you a few times that we talked, is LSU's a better job than Ole Miss. I mean, let's be real. You want to talk about the resources and the money and the NIL and the portal and all that. Lane's going to get the best players every year. I think what he did at Ole Miss probably won't happen for a while. I think he did a phenomenal job. And by the way, he got $150,000 for Ole Miss winning the playoff game. So every playoff game Ole Miss wins, it's in his LSU contract. He's still getting paid off of Ole Miss winning. So I think that's even crazier. But I think this coming week, I think Ole Miss and Georgia, and I know we'll get into some of these games, I think they're going to see this week against Georgia. Missing Lane Kiffin is going to hurt them a little bit this week because Lane knows Kirby Smart better than anybody. And I like Pete Golden. I hope he does a good job. I hope Ole Miss, wins games. I hope they're battling for playoff spots every year with him. But I mean, when people look back at the Lane thing and you look at some of these other guys, the John Summerall that was able to coach Tulane in a playoff game. Chesney was able to coach in a playoff game. I see why Ole Miss didn't let him do it, but I also don't agree with him not doing it. I could have saw either or, but these other guys were able to come back and coach. And I know people will say, well, he had a team that can win a national championship. If Lane was still there, I said this before the brackets even came out, Ole Miss is a really scary team to play. They have one of the best running backs in the country. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, best skilled guys in the country. Defensively, they're not as strong, but I really thought that they could go on a deep run, and they still can. But he took a better job.
Yeah, he did. And, he'll never have to leave the state barely for recruiting. There's so much talent in Louisiana, and they live and die by LSU. I mean, they love that program. They do everything for that program. There is no one from Louisiana, no recruit is going to say no to LSU. And I think that's the advantage. And like you said, the resources that he's going to have there it blows Ole Miss away. For like, you mentioned it before, the fact that he got the people that he got to go to Ole Miss was magical because it is not a destination in the SEC traditionally that kids want to go play for. And he was able to do that.
Look at Whittingham going to Michigan. He's going to go from a program at Utah where they were really good. They won a lot of games in his 21 years, and people forget this year in the Big 12 they were 10-2. Yep. He's going to a program that's got better resources. He's going to a program where, like Urban Meyer said the other day, he can win a national championship in year one. They have the money. They can get athletes. They can get recruits. They got facilities. They got boosters. They have everything that Utah didn't have. And that's not a knock on Utah because Whittingham won at Utah. So these coaches, and we said it on one of the shows where the NCAA just got to push the dates back. They got to let these coaches be able to coach through this because I would have loved to see Lane coach this team. I mean, historically, one of the best seasons, best runs in Ole Miss history. I would have loved to seen it. But at the end of the day, with the way the NCAA is now today, it's the schools that have the most money. Who can go build a team with this portal? And both schools are going to be able to do that.
It is. And the NCAA thought by pushing the transfer portal out to January that it would change things and, make coaching hires go a little bit later. I know now that they're talking about trying to be like the NFL and not let coaches get hired until the season is over. Mm-hmm. I don't think that will ever come close to passing. I don't think so. Just because of the schedule, because of recruiting, because you can't have kids signing in early December and not knowing who their coach is. There's an interim coach. So that's going to be a mess. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Heisman Trophy ceremony. I got to watch that. What were your thoughts on the winner who happened to come from Indiana?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? I was really torn by it because I could have saw any of the three guys winning. I could have saw Diego Pavia winning it too. Yeah. I thought he was, of the quarterbacks, you want to bring in the stats, rush for 1,000, throw for 2,000, take him off Vanderbilt. They're nowhere near as good as they are today. But when you listen to Fernando Mendoza speak and you listen to what a class act the kid is, and you listen to the journey that he had, coming from Cal, he wasn't even a high touted recruit, to go to a program like Indiana. And you and I said this, the day that we see a college coach like Cignetti pass up a job at Penn State or LSU, Michigan, and all these jobs, and now you got Indiana as the number one seed in the college football playoff. You have a Heisman Trophy quarterback. I mean, that's the world we live in today, of college football. But I thought they got it right. I knew he was going to win it after the game after Penn State and then beating Ohio State. If the role was reversed and Ohio State beat Indiana, Julian Sayin played really well against Indiana. Their stats were pretty close. He had the pick late in that game, but I thought they got it right. But I wouldn't have been surprised if Pavia won it. But he was a distant second compared to Mendoza.
I was surprised when I saw how short Pavia was. And there also was something I heard that he possibly may be trying to get another year of eligibility at Vanderbilt, which I thought was completely shocking because he went to junior college and transferred. Because they're not counting junior college years, he technically, I guess with the rules, could play another year. He would have to get a waiver to do it and apply for it. Do you think that he should come back and try to play another year at Vanderbilt, or do you think he needs to move on?
I don't want to see it. I mean, as great as a player he was, I mean, he's been there. He's been in college for 7 years or something crazy like that. You know what, Steve? The one thing that rubbed me the wrong way is I could not believe the Rodriguez kid from Texas Tech, the linebacker, did not make it to New York City as one of the favorites. The season that kid had at Texas Tech, playing on one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the country, I was really surprised that he didn't get an invite. And the other thing is the Mendoza or the Pavia comments he made, at the end, he said about the Mendoza winning, and he kind of reminded me of Johnny Football and Johnny Manziel, the partier, love the bright lights. They both played very similar styles, and I think they're friends and whatnot. And I know he apologized later, but you can't say those types of things. You got to win with class, you lose with class. But yeah, he's a little guy, man. He's not big.
No, and I do think that hurt him. And I read an article where it said exactly that. It reminded them of Johnny Manziel, and that is not a comparison you necessarily want going forward, I would say. Miami, Texas A&M, that game surprised me tremendously. It was a defensive battle. I expected Texas A&M and Marcel Reed to score more points. I know he was not in at the end of the game when the sack happened. They were going down to score to tie the game. But I mean, were you expecting a defensive battle, or did you think it was going to be more of an offensive output, high scoring affair with both teams?
No, I figured it'd be defense because both those two teams in the trenches on the both O-line and D-line, they're as good as anybody in the country.
They are.
So I'm not surprised at all. I think Miami's going to match up well with Ohio State. What I was a little surprised at is Carson Beck from his time at Georgia's played in a lot of big games. He was only like 12 of 20. I think he only had a few passes over 10 yards, downfield. So he really struggled to push the ball downfield against A&M. And Texas A&M, listen, they've been good all year. They've really thrived on defense. They didn't really play the tough schedule in the SEC as some of the other schools did. They got a little lucky this year. They didn't have to play Georgia. They didn't have to play Alabama. They didn't have to play some of those teams. But I'm not taking anything away from them. Both those teams are built from the inside out, Steve, and you know that better than I do. When you're built from the inside out, you can be good in the trenches, man, you can beat anybody. And both teams play really well defensively.
You're absolutely right. You're dangerous when you are tough up front and when you have defenses like that and you can stop anyone. And it showed. And Carson Beck, I was really kind of disappointed with. He only threw for a little over 100 yards, I believe. He did not look spectacular, but they did get the win, which I thought was good and important for the ACC at this point. I was shocked at A&M losing, because they ended up losing 2 in a row, I guess, if with Texas. I did not think that would be possible with them. I thought they were too good. So I was surprised with that completely. And looking forward, I wanted to ask you again, Yukon, we hired the quarterback coach from Syracuse to be our offensive coordinator. And we hired the linebacker coach at Pitt to be our defensive coordinator. And I think they're trying to get some of these coaches from the Power 4 schools to come in, up-and-comers, to be coordinators for them. Did you think that those were good hires for UConn?
Well, I think the Nunzio one, I don't know too much about him. I know he's got really strong New Jersey ties. Longtime coordinator, Don Bosco, prep down in New Jersey, big prep school there. The one thing I'll say is I would go back and say what happened was, he was retained by Fran Brown. Was going to be the quarterback coach. And then midway through this season, they moved him back to the tight ends. The quarterbacks, when Kyle McCord got hurt, or not Kyle McCord, when Angeli got hurt and went down, the quarterbacks at Syracuse really struggled.
Yeah, they did.
They really struggled down the stretch for Syracuse. So I think recruiting-wise, it's going to help them because he's got the strong New Jersey ties. Now, a lot of people are saying, Angeli was coached by, I think, was it Nunzio's brother?
Right.
So I think some people are saying, is there any shot that Angeli transfers from Syracuse over to Connecticut? I don't see that happening, but I think it'd be interesting to see. But I think it's okay. I mean, what do the people your way think down at UConn? They like it.
They're all happy. Yeah, they're all very happy with the staff Jason Candle has put together. Although we lost our special teams coordinator in the matter of 3 days, he got hired at Virginia Tech. But other than that, he's put together a great staff. He brought someone from Georgia up as, I believe, the running back coach. So he's been going to power conferences, trying to get guys in. And I think he brought 1 or 2 guys for Toledo. But his staff is finalized. I think it's a good staff. He got his general manager. The first one he got, again, he had him for 3 days, left for Michigan State. Now they brought in somebody from Sacramento State. So he's a younger guy. He's a football junkie. We'll see what they do. I don't know how much power the GM has, but we are going to see. The question I wanted to ask, I watched the Penn State Clemson game, and Penn State looked very, very good. Clemson looked like they fell off a cliff. And that has kind of been the theme for them all season long. I was very surprised. They finished 7-5. They struggled after being a favorite. And, they had Cade Klubnik at quarterback, who was a Heisman candidate coming into the season.
Yep.
He didn't have the best of years, but they just did not look like they wanted to play this game. What were your thoughts? Because, Penn State, Big Ten team, they came in ready to play. And again, they're another team that had a depleted roster from, guys leaving, guys transferring, and the guys that they went in with played hard. It was important to them, and they pulled out a win against Clemson.
Yeah, I think to start the season, I think a lot of people would have thought that those two teams had a realistic shot to play for a national championship, especially with all the returners that Clemson had, bringing Klubnik back and, Drew Aller and those guys for Penn State coming back. So the seasons didn't go the way they wanted it to, but tip your hat to Terry Smith, the Penn State interim head coach, because, when they fired James Franklin, this team won, I think, 5 games under Terry Smith. And you could see the passion in his eyes when he talks about those kids, talks about those the university, what it means to him. And when you watch that bowl game, it's the complete opposite, because you look at Clemson and they didn't look like they wanted to be in the game. And I love Dabo Swinney. I won't take anything away from the run that he's had at Clemson. He hasn't done much in the transfer portal. These were his guys that have been with him for 3 to 4 years. Some of them look like they didn't develop. He's going to get knocked. And I think going in the next season, he's going to have a lot of heat on him. I think he's going to have to win. I think that, if he has another year like this year, I think there'll be a mutual agreement. They'll part ways with him. But when you watch that Penn State game, man, I'll tell you, it's hard not to like Terry Smith, and I'm glad that Matt Campbell's retaining him. I'm sure the university probably said, listen, you got to keep him on staff. He's going to be one of the highest paid assistant head coaches in college football. But again, when you watch Penn State, no Nate Singleton, no Katron Allen, 2 of the best backs in college football, and they still found a way to dominate a Clemson team that, had a lot of guys out, but so did Penn State. So a tale of 2 tapes of one team that looked like they wanted to be there. The other one looked like they weren't motivated at all. And Steve, I'm with you. I don't know what happened to Klubnik this year. A lot of people had him as the first quarterback taken. Right now, he's going to be a late, maybe second rounder, third round. He fell in this draft.
Fell off the cliff. Yeah, I thought so. What did you think of Clemson firing offensive coordinator Garrett Riley? I was somewhat surprised by that because he had been there a little while. He was hired in 2023. He had 2 years remaining on his contract. He had a good year from Klubnik last year. And then, obviously Klubnik regressed this year. And I thought the other thing, Clemson really struggled to run the ball consistently. And that was a huge factor in them being able to get the passing game going. But what were your thoughts on Garrett Riley getting fired?
Well, somebody had to take the fall. First, I thought the offensive line stunk all year. Klubnik, he took a beating this year. I think he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks, in college football. So like we were just talking about, the games in the trenches, you can put, Tom Brady back there, you can put anybody back there. But if you're running for your life or you're getting sacked and you're under pressure, it changes a lot of things. And then you can't run the football. and you're relying on, throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. I thought Riley did a really good job the last couple of years, with the Clemson offense. I think somebody had to take the fall. Daboll's not going to take the fall. I thought they should have got rid of their offensive line coach. Maybe they will at some point. But I think Garrett Riley will fall back on his feet somewhere. I mean, he's a Riley, right? He's Lincoln Riley's brother. They're known for offense. They're known for developing, quarterbacks, but they really struggled up front.
Speaking of Lincoln Riley, what were your thoughts on Notre Dame and USC canceling the series, at least for 2026, because they could not come to an agreement? And it had more to do with travel, I believe, and the time frame than anything, because they typically play later in the year. USC wanted to play earlier in the year, and it was their turn to play at home. They wanted to kind of play at a neutral site. Notre Dame said, no, thank you. and they quickly moved on to BYU. And I just think it's Notre Dame again, thinking they own college football. I always say Notre Dame thinks they invented football, and it's sour grapes on their part.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I saw something too where Texas and Ohio State canceled a series. I thought I saw Ohio State, Alabama canceled a series. And, I'll go back to what I said on one of our prior shows, that if Texas doesn't play Ohio State this year and they're a two-loss team, Texas is in the playoff. So they got penalized by losing to Ohio State at the beginning of the year and having 3 losses. So I think the Notre Dame piece with USC, I mean, listen, the Big Ten's going to play 9 conference games next year. So those teams are going to be like the SEC, Steve. They're going to beat each other up. So if you can, you're non-conference, I wouldn't go play anybody. The committee, if you can go and win, 12 games and have 1 or 2 losses, you're in the college football playoff. I just looked at Notre Dame's schedule the other night for next year. The schedule's a joke.
Yeah.
So they're going to have another season where if I'm Marcus Freeman, and I just saw that news, he says he's staying. The Giants were looking at, I would stay too, because the schedule's cake. I mean, he's going to win 10, 12 games a year. They got to get into conference. They have to get into, whether it's the ACC, the Big Ten, they have got to get into a conference. But like you said, Notre Dame's always thought they were different, in college football. But, man, that schedule next year, he's going to win 10, 11 games without blinking.
That is exactly what the Big 12 commissioner said. Notre Dame, you don't like it, get into a conference.
Yeah.
Because, they have the agreement with the ACC. They play 5 ACC schools a year. The ACC has now gone to a 9-team conference schedule, which is challenging because they don't have enough teams for that. So, and because of future scheduling, they are going to be splitting it up, where half the league is going to play 8 conference games. The other half is going to play 9. When Notre Dame plays an ACC school, they get all the revenue. Mm-hmm. They get all the TV revenue. They don't split anything with the ACC. So the only way it benefits them is at the gate. And that's Notre Dame's argument is, when we come to town, we sell out. So we deserve everything else. We deserve the games to be on NBC, Peacock, whatever. And that's we were going over it because Yukon wants to go to the ACC. And the time frame for that would be, we were looking at it, would probably be around 2030. That is the lowest buyout Notre Dame would have to get out of their contract with the ACC. And from the remarks of their athletic director, I think that that is probably where they're going to go. And we're talking $75 million. Mm-hmm. They get close to $90 million just from television revenue alone. So I can't even imagine what they get from donor revenue and everything else from that standpoint. But for them, they have to join a conference. Being an independent, laying out your own schedule, and I know we do that at Yukon as well, but you have control. You also can pick cupcake opponents. Your agreement with the ACC. I'd love to see them have an agreement with the Big Ten. Let's see how they do against the Big Ten. Let's see how they would do against the SEC. I think you would see much different results if they played those teams. But Notre Dame, I think, after this year, very, very sour grapes. They think they're better than they are, and they're not making the college football world happy. Let's put it that way. So we are going into the playoffs for the next round, the bracket, and it is going to be very, very interesting. And I would start with, I guess, Miami. You want to do Miami?
Yeah, Miami's tomorrow night. They're the first one.
Yeah, Miami and Texas A&M. I'm sorry, not Miami, Texas A&M. It is Miami and is that Ohio State?
Yep, Ohio State.
Yeah, Miami, Ohio State. That is at 7:30 on ESPN. Ohio State, 9.5 point favorites. What are your thoughts on this? It's being played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, also known as the Cowboy Stadium. Who do you like here?
Well, if people are listening, they're going to hear my sneak peek because I'm going to give my picks on my show probably tomorrow night. So they're going to hear it twice. But, there's something about Miami that they're not built like an ACC team. To me, they're built like a Big Ten team. And I think the two games this year where Ohio State has struggled to score points was the opening game against Texas. I thought they really struggled. Now, they found a way to win that game late. And I think the game against Indiana where Julian Sain was sacked. He turned it over. He was running for his life a little bit. This Miami team, Steve, as I said, as far as the trenches go, Miami had 7 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss against Texas A&M. I really think that Miami's got a really good shot. Do I think would it surprise me to see if Ohio State beats them? No, because they are the favorite. But I'll tell you what, if I'm a betting man, and I am, I think Miami can beat them outright because, again, Beck's played in a lot of big games. They're physical on both sides of the line. I think Miami, if Beck has a really good game, they can keep him upright. Ohio State hasn't seen these ends like Miami's had all season long.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to give Ohio State a game. Now, Ohio State, they are the nation's top defense. They're only giving up about 8 points a game, and I think they've only given up 16 points, and that was to Indiana. That's been the most that anybody's scored. Now, Miami's got to try to contain Jeremiah Smith and Cardell Tate, those two wide receivers on the outside for Ohio State. And I think at the end of the day, whoever wins the turnover battle, I think wins this game. So this is going to be the game where I'm going to pick the underdog, Steve. I think Miami beats Ohio State 16-10. I got a low scoring. I think Carson Beck finds a way. And I think my wife hates me tomorrow night because I'm going to be pulling for Miami because she's a Buckeye fan. And all the Buckeye homers are going to say, well, he's a Michigan guy. He's not going to pick Ohio State. I think it's a bad matchup for the Buckeyes.
I think it's a really bad matchup for the Buckeyes, and I agree with you 100%. I don't know how Vegas has Ohio State as a 9.5 point favorite. I think Miami, like you said, with the edge rushers, with the skill position players, especially at receiver, the running back, Beck, he's played in all the big games. Miami, I believe, is going to win this one. I believe they're going to win it outright. And moving to New Year's Day, the big matchup, Oregon, Texas Tech. Oregon, 2.5 point favorite. It is being played in Miami. Who do you like here?
I think this is going to be the best game. I was really, my dad's always been defense wins championships. But I really like Oregon. I think this Oregon team's got a really good shot to win the national championship. I think they got a really good shot to make a run. Offensively, they're really good. They're top 10 in the nation in total offense. The defense is top 10. They only give up about 250 yards a game. Texas Tech's going to run. They're going to challenge Oregon because Texas Tech, Steve, runs a lot of unbalance, a lot of different sets that I think will give Oregon some fits. But I don't think Texas Tech has seen the speed, and they haven't seen a Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon, who's been real good all season for them. I don't think they've seen a team like Oregon that they can run the football. They're physical up front. Those two linebackers, Bailey and Rodriguez for Texas Tech, are going to have their hands full. But at the end of the day, it would not surprise me if Texas Tech finds a way defensively to create turnovers and wins this game. But at the end of the day, I got it 24-16. I love Dan Lanning, and I love the Ducks moving on.
Yeah, and I agree with you here as well. I just think Oregon has too much firepower. Texas Tech they did great in the Big 12. Oregon, with what they did in the Big 10 and what they did in the playoffs against even James Madison, they have shown they're going to make a run. And I believe they are going to win this game. And we've seen, the teams that have had byes have not had success as of late. Yep. So I agree with you there. I think Oregon wins. I think they cover the spread, and I think they're going to move on. Indiana, Alabama. Alabama was a bit of a surprise getting into the playoffs, and then they were a surprise winning the first round. Indiana is a 7-point favorite, and this is obviously the Rose Bowl. So who do you like here?
Well, I like Indiana, but I like Indiana because, to me, Alabama hasn't been able to run the football at all season. I think they had 28 yards rushing against Oklahoma. They only averaged about 3 yards a carry. And one of the things, they're going to throw the ball a lot. And Indiana is one of the best secondaries in the country. They've only given up 7 passing touchdowns all year. So you're going to have to be able to run the football a little bit. You're not going to be able to drop back Ty Simpson and just try to think you're going to pick this Indiana defense apart. Now, when I look at Indiana this year, I do look at, they beat an Illinois team early in the year when Illinois was top 10. They hung 60 on them. They still have, to me, the best win in college football, which was on the road at Oregon midway through the year. And they had the big win. I know it's a lopsided, but they beat Penn State on that Heisman moment drive by Mendoza when the kid made a huge catch in the back of the end zone. So if Alabama can find a way to run the ball, Steve, Alabama has the talent to stay close. But at the end of the day, I like Indiana giving up the 7 points. I had this one, 35-19. And I'd be surprised if Bama doesn't score even that much against this Indiana defense.
Yeah, I think the Indiana defense is going to have Ty Simpson running for his life. I think that this is Indiana's year, Kurt Cignetti's year, all the way. He's got the Heisman Trophy winner, and they want it. They deserve it. They played hard. They played a tough Big Ten schedule. They came out of it unscathed. I believe they are going to take it to Alabama, and I think they're going to throttle. I really do. I think they're going to beat them down and send a message to the rest of the college playoff world and the rest of the country that they are for real. They have been bottom dwellers of the Big Ten for so many years. This is their year. So I do believe they are going to win as well. And finally, rematch or Ole Miss in Georgia. Ole Miss in Georgia, SEC. Georgia, 6.5-point favorite over Ole Miss. What do you like here?
I love Georgia. They're on a 9. When they got beat to Alabama, I think it was back in September. They've won 9 straight in this one. I think Gunnar Stockton's played remarkably better as the seasons went on. I think Kirby Smart's defense has gotten better as the season has went on. But, when Lane Kiffin was there, if you remember the first time these two teams played, I think it was like 43-35. Ole Miss scored on like the first 6 possessions. Like Ole Miss was dominating this football game until late. Now the big question is going to be, is Kejuan Lacey healthy? He got banged up against Tulane. He didn't play the whole second half. That they said a left shoulder injury, so I'm not sure if he'll go, but he'll find a way to go. Trinidad Chambliss had a really good season. He played really well the last time against Georgia. But I think, again, this is going to be the game where they're going to miss Lane Kiffin in this game. I know he sent Charlie Weiss Jr. back to call the plays. He sent a lot of the offensive staff back to call plays, which I think is great that Lane did that. But I think this is the game that catches up to him a little bit. I got Georgia 38-24 over Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you again. I just think Georgia is too good of a team. Ole Miss, they got the win that they were supposed to get. This is where somewhat of the Cinderella story ends, with Lane Kiffin leaving and Golding taking over. Georgia's going to win. Georgia's going to move on, and it's going to be a very interesting way to go from there. But I agree with all of your picks. Miami, Oregon, Indiana, Georgia, solid picks. I think that very, very accurate, unless something goes wrong, like you said, turnovers, or a team plays very, very poorly. I don't see it going any other way. Texas Tech probably would have the best chance of beating Oregon. Ohio State would have the better chance of beating Miami. Yep. Otherwise, I think Indiana and Georgia are going to cruise.
Steve, I think we need a FanDuel parlay pick. Can FanDuel sponsor us? And they say, here's the 5 picks parlay. Here it is at plus whatever 100.
I'll contact them to see if we can get them as a sponsor. We'll get FanDuel as a sponsor. But great job, great show. Love the picks, love the analysis, and looking forward to see what happens. And to everyone out there, and to you and your wife, Happy New Year early. Hope you guys have a great New Year's Eve. And this has been College Football Clarity. Great to hear The Rock. So you got a commenter that likes you. Great to hear The Rock on College Football Talk. Loves it.
Tags and pinstripes.
You got fans. So for College Football Clarity, I am Steve Cully with The Rock himself, Rocky Corigliano, The Rock Pile. Don't forget to catch his podcast and his picks, which are tomorrow. Is it, or Friday?
Well, I'll release them tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. That's right, because New Year's Day. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments across the country and also go to college showcase camps. Proud to say they were undefeated at every tournament they attended. Every college showcase camp, a member of the Trench Mob was offered a college scholarship. He's in Decatur, Georgia. If you want to work with the best, work with the Trench Mob, www.battleofthetrenches.com. We have Ned Von Young, Freshfold Laundry Company, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. High-end laundry service. They have you book online. You put your laundry out in a clear plastic bag. They pick it up, wash, dry, fold it for you at Land Speed Records. And they also have an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly. They offer now a pickup and delivery service, so you can have your laundry done without leaving the comfort of your own home. Again, washed, dried, and folded for you and return to you within 48 hours. They also have an expedited service. They have deals for college students in the area as well. Check out their website, myfreshfold-laundry.com. We also have James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning. He specializes in insurance policies, mainly life insurance. He will make you a boatload of money, and he will do so tax-free. He understands the stress that comes with retirement planning. How much do I need? For how long? Do we have enough? Because fear of the unknown is real. To connect with James, you can go to his website, www.lutherjamesinsurance.com. Finally, we have Rob Hill of R. Hill Enterprises, Inc. Rob is an accomplished author. He is a speaker, and he also is an insurance mastermind, along with being a minister. Rob will put you in the right insurance plan for you. He understands the constraints and the rules that go with insurance, but he makes sure that you ask the right questions so you get the right answers. His main objective is to pull people's heads out of the sand, because that is what we're dealing with currently. To connect with Rob, you can message him on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or go to his website, rhillenterprisesinc.com. Again, he also does speaking engagements. He is a phenomenal insurance agent out of Chicago, Illinois, and you should contact him for any advice, even if you don't want to work with him.